Hello, everyone, and welcome to this podcast talking about all things cricket in the southeastern suburbs of Melbourne. We're going to talk about lots of things today. We're going to talk about sub-district cricket, we're going to talk about Premier cricket, we're going to talk about the DDCA and maybe even some Casey Cricket Association at the end. My name's Brent Wilson. I'm your host for this today, and joining me is one of the finest young journalists from the southeastern suburbs of Melbourne, also doubles as an Endeavour Hills seconds player. Mitch, how's it going?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Thanks for the introduction. Let's get into it and talk some cricket.
Yeah, well, first of all, how'd you go on the weekend?
How'd we go on the weekend? As a team, not great in the twos Endeavour Hills. Needed a win to lock up second on the ladder, and unfortunately fell quite a few runs short against Baldwin. I think 80 odd in the end, so that wasn't a great start for us. But we still finished third, so not too much of a loss, really, only one position. But the ones is the real story for Endeavour Hills. In a five-way battle, I think it was for sixth place.
Yeah.
Five-way battle, needed a win, got the win, and fortunately, every other team in that battle lost. And an absolute Hail Mary, the Endeavour Hills ones have snuck into sixth place from ninth at the start of the round.
That was crazy. I saw that and I was like, that must be surely just about over before last week. And then, Hoppers Crossing were in the box seat. They were already in the sixth. They had a game against a lower-ranked Altona team. And, well, they lost that one. And then it was even Melton who was up against Williamstown. I guess Williamstown are in the top three, so would have been a harder one for that. And then even Endeavour Hills, they had to do their own work and they had to beat Baldwin in their own match. And somehow all those three results came together. And, ninth to sixth, it just is a remarkable performance. But, I guess it sort of also highlights that whole idea of the top 6 out of 16 teams, doesn't it? Because it's like there's probably other teams there who probably deserve to be there, if not for just a stumble at the last hurdle.
Yeah, no, that's the thing about the subbies comp. With only 6 teams making the finals out of 16, it's always a very, very close competition. And like you see the ones table especially, it's just been so tight all year.
Yeah.
Like we've been down in 10th and we're like a game off third, and it's like just crazy stuff like that. But yeah, they've snuck in, really picked up the momentum the last few weeks with some young players coming in. It's exciting times. See what they can do. Yeah,
well, it's probably been a season of almost 2 halves, probably, with all those internationals that were there at the start. Then they go away, and then, you probably find a few weeks where you're stumbling a bit, trying to look for answers to, questions that you never really had to think about before. And then, you said that they got the consistency going at the end. So, congratulations to Endeavour Hills for making it. So, what are their chances against Spotswood this week, who were first?
Well, they did beat Spotswood when we played them, but again, in that team, we had Tilakratni Dilshan, Lahiri Tirumani, Dimwith Karunaratna. So, quite a few big names that aren't going to be there this time around. Spotswood, obviously a good team to finish first, and finishing above someone like Werribee is always a big achievement because Werribee traditionally one of the power clubs. So I know they'll be up against it, but no one expected them to make the finals. There's nothing to lose really, and exciting to see what happens. Yeah,
well, in the game against Baldwin, it was Udanagana, I don't know how you say that, you might know better, and Panditharana, who put on a pretty important partnership there to get themselves to 786 off their 45 overs, and then in response they bowled them out for 167. So lots of contributions across the board. J.S. Sundar 3 for 42 and Pereira, how do you say that one?
Yeah, just Pez Pereira.
3 for 20 as well. They get the job done. Into the finals because, of course, as I said, the Hoppers Crossing fell by 11 runs to Altona, and also I think the other game, Melton were bowled out for 98, chasing 197 in their match. So that's Endeavour Hills into the finals. Noel Park didn't have as quite a great season. They finished in the 12th on the ladder in total with 5 wins on the board. How did you see their season?
Yeah, probably not what Noble Park wanted, obviously finishing 12th. Would have liked to push finals. They didn't get out of the short round robin stage in the T20 comp either. It's not the best season for them, and probably have to reset next year. Might be a few changes coming there that are yet to be announced, but we'll see what happens. Yeah,
well, I did look, and they've got the other 3 teams are all in finals, I think. So they've obviously got some talent coming through. I guess one of the names I saw throughout the year that had an impressive performance was Josh Crozier, who scored a century. He was a guy that I played against back in junior days. And it was good to see that he finally broke through because he was in that team the whole season and he just couldn't quite get any runs at all. And then all of a sudden, he breaks through for a big century. So congratulations to them. And I guess, there's probably a bit of talent coming through that they can look out for.
Well, and just on Josh Crozier too, I think I read today, he's got 14 wickets to like 13 or something as well. So doing well with bat and ball in the ones. And then, to have all other 3 grades, obviously a good sign. There's still young talent in the club and people that can build towards one. So there's still definitely a core group there to work with. And
their final match of the season, they got the job done against Box Hill, who are, sitting in 5th spot in the ladder. So it was a pretty good win for them on the weekend. 163. They chased down Box Hill's 160 by 4 wickets with 3.1 overs to go. 4.1 overs to go. Jeez, I can't count. That's all good. It was one innings Box Hill that had, but the wicket takers were spread across the board. Ahmed 3 for 25, 3 for 22 for Leon Budagalig, the captain, and Desai had 2 for as well. And then in response, if I can actually use my finger correctly, it was a good innings from Pereira, 55 off 74. Leon Badaraj, pretty good game from the captain there, 39 off 52 as well, and they saw it home, with a few overs to spare. So good on them for finishing out the season well, and maybe next season they'll be looking at something better.
Yeah, Ahmed you mentioned there, he's a player that's definitely, I think he started the season in the threes, and I played against him in the twos, just like a big in-swinging bowler, and he's also, I saw he made a 50 last week or the week before down the bottom of the order as well, so he's done well and moved up from at least the threes, I think, to the ones this year, so great stuff from him, and an exciting young player to watch for Noble.
Yeah, well, we'll wrap up the sub-district cricket there with the salary cap thing. Have you read about this? What's happening with the salary cap?
Yeah, it's interesting. Probably not a bad idea in theory, I think, the old salary cap. Where am I here? Yeah, so like you've got, Endeavour Hills this season, you have players like Karuna Ratner, Dilshan Tirumani. When you've got 3 Sri Lankan internationals and the current test captain, that's probably a bit much, and it's like not fair for normal clubs, like standard clubs, to compete with, I guess. And like you've got a lot of high quality players around. Like you've got James Pattinson for Oakley next year.
Yeah.
You've got Michael Beer at Malvern, John Hastings at Kew, like all these big players. So a salary cap probably will be good to level the playing field a bit. I guess the hardest question is, how do you police it? Because we see international, like professional sporting codes all the time. People rort the system, people cheat. Who's to say it's not going to happen? It's going to be a lot harder to police at this level.
Well, there's obviously the old sort of, we employ him down at my local job and all that kind of stuff, and all those roundabout ways of getting it through. But I guess sub-district, though, is a bit interesting in the sense that they've always seemed to have that sort of idea of getting those marquee players in. I mean, even in the 80s, I think in Morty Alec there was Malcolm Marshall and stuff. Yes. The West Indian fast bowlers. So it's interesting that now they've decided that now is enough and they need to crack down on it. But I guess interesting to see how they will get that one done.
Yeah, and I think from what I read in the quotes I read, the thinking behind it is it's not to stop clubs bringing in marquee players as such, but more just to limit the excessive amounts being paid to just average Premier cricketers.
Yeah.
That are getting paid like 20, 30k. And like these numbers here floating around, no one knows how accurate they are, but probably something in the ballpark of that, and it's probably a bit too much. And it's like, it just puts so much pressure on the clubs in the end, and clubs are kind of, because everyone's forced to pay up to compete.
Yeah.
It's like, so it's kind of trying to put a stop to that money, I guess, climbing, so clubs can like put it into developing juniors, which I think in theory, great idea. Interesting to see how it plays out, and if anyone tries to cheat it, which hopefully not, but you never know. But definitely interesting to watch and a good theory. Yeah,
well, we talked about Endeavour Hills before, how they made that miracle run from 9 to 6. Well, in the Premier Cricket, it was Casey South Melbourne who needed a similar situation heading into the final round. I think they actually needed an outright, but they were probably a bit dudded by the rain in the first week because they only got through 50 overs, I think, Geelong, in their innings in that first week of the 2-dayer. And then they decided to bat for 90 overs, make 423, and give Casey South Melbourne 37 overs to chase down 423 to get a spot in the finals, which, I mean, I'm not sure about the spirit of that and whether other teams will be a bit disappointed if they had have given them a good chance to get a win. But that seems like they've been absolutely dudded there.
Yeah, definitely not an ideal way for Casey to finish the season. And it must have been an absolute road down at Geelong, because I think in that 37 overs, Casey made, 5 for 200 or something?
Yeah, 4 for 205, exactly.
Yeah, so far out, like 600 plus runs in like 120, 130 overs. Very high scoring day and a half of cricket. But unfortunate way for Casey to end their season. But I guess you have to look at it, like we talked about this on the podcast that never made it.
Yeah.
Last week. What is like the benchmark of success in Premier cricket? Is it teams winning premierships, which is obviously one, or is it also producing players? Because you got Casey, they've produced Ranthikala Potha, they've produced Ash Chandra Singh, they've got another very good young player in Harish Cannon that scored 190 not out, and he had a 50 in that game as well. He's in a rich vein of form. They also got Luke Manders, another one. He's had a good season. I think he was close to second 11 at one point, and he featured in one of those like Premier Cricket All-Stars versus Vic Invitational games. So he's been around that ballpark. So they are producing a lot of good talent, just hasn't clicked as a team this year, Casey. And they will be disappointed. They've got no grades in finals. I think every grade was in that 12th or 13th bracket when you look through it.
Yeah.
So not the best season for Casey. They did make the Super Slam semi-finals, which is a great achievement. But producing good players, but couldn't bring it all together on the field this year as a team.
Yeah, but of course, you just look at Chandra Singh, just this one example, just like they've absolutely brought him through the grades and to see what he's become, that's surely got to be pretty special for them. And I guess, he probably misses a few games because he is doing that. And it's like, there's not much you can really do about that. But as you were saying, Manders averaging 47 for the season in Premier First. So he had a pretty good season as well. Cannon obviously averaging ridiculous numbers as well. for such a young guy as well is quite a remarkable performance from him. And then, in that game, it was Manus made 40 off 35, Cannon 52 off 56, Keller Pother finished not out 45 off 79, and Devlin Webb 39 off 28. So, they definitely gave it a good old go, but Geelong making 423, I mean, that's pretty ridiculous, 90 overs in the first place.
Yeah, I guess, they didn't really have much to play for, I guess, so it's an interesting one, like you said, spirit of the game, but they're not obliged to kind of force a result, I guess. It's good for the neutral viewer, but at the end of the day, can't really do much about it.
But because they batted so long, they only got the draw in the end, Casey South Melbourne, so they ended up finishing 13th, which means, you might look at that and go, how on earth were they even in contention for the finals in the first place? But I guess that's was just the way it panned out, where there's a lot of teams log-jammed in that sort of 10th to 13th mark before the round, and they could have easily made their way into the finals, but in the end, not to be. Not to be for Dandenong this season either, who had a pretty horror season, to be honest. Their coach walked out on them, they've had a few players walk out on them as well, so it's been one hell of a strange season for Dandenong, hasn't it?
Yeah, definitely not ideal for them. I think they finished down in 16th, so not what you want, and obviously coach walking out halfway through the season isn't ideal, especially when it's such a famed legend in Warren Ayres. So interesting to see where they go. I haven't heard anything in terms of direction. Not sure if you have with the next coach.
No, I'm not sure where the new coach goes, but 2 wins for the season. It's a far cry from a few seasons ago when they were winning the comp and stuff like that.
Well, that is a very good point. Made the grand final a few years ago, and then obviously Nanopolis went to Frankston, and a couple other big players walk out. And if you don't, maybe the young people haven't stepped up yet, not quite sure. But in terms of the coaching, I think you mentioned Darren Pattinson. There's one. Want to tell
Darren Pattinson. Oh, I don't know. There's no real theory to that. Just I think he would be a smart brain to have around there. But I guess that's the thing. It just comes and goes sometimes in cricket. That sometimes you've got, I guess they weren't playing because they were too busy playing first class cricket. But you had Siddle and Pattinson and Nanopoulos and all these stars that come through the ranks, and it's sometimes that just doesn't happen for you, and sometimes, and I guess that's probably what we're seeing at probably Casey South Melbourne is maybe the more of the younger talents gone, there's all these established old guys at Dandenong. I might also go to Casey South Melbourne and trying to learn there rather than go to Dandenong. So I guess it'll take a few years for them to rebuild that, but they'll be strong enough to get through. I'm pretty sure for that.
Yeah, and one positive too for Dandenong, they have got the seconds in finals. Seconds finished 7th, I believe.
Oh, do you want me to check that off?
No, seconds finished 7th, and the fourth also finished 7th. So they've got a few lower grades in finals, which is a good indicator that they can kind of sustain and bounce back. Because one thing with Casey, we touched on them, while they had a great year in the ones last year, there no other grades are in finals, and then you kind of see that as this year's progressed, they haven't really had as much talent as they'd like probably coming through from those lower grades, and so it's probably a good indicator for Daniel. They've got the lower grades in finals. And one player I want to touch on too, young Sean Thomas. I think he's 16. He's a former Endeavour Hills player. Played with us in the twos last year, and he was a very good technique, but couldn't really score. He's taken his game to new heights this year. Scored 146 not out for Dandenong in the thirds at one point as a 16-year-old.
Yeah.
And now he's going to be batting probably 5 for them in the finals in the twos, sitting there to see if he can do anything. But
there you go. So that's sub-district wrapped up and Premier Cricket wrapped up. We'll head on to the DDCA now, and Springvale South lose their first game at probably one of the worst possible times. I mean, they're still in the finals, but Buckley Ridges pull off just about the perfect chase against them. Springvale South making 225 down, and Buckley Ridges chasing it down with 1 over to spare. What did you think of that match?
Yeah, big upset. What did you say that was their first loss of the season?
Well, apart from the T20s, obviously.
Yeah, Stone Turf won first loss because I think they had 11 wins. Must have been washouts. The other ones.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of washouts. But they had a percentage of 2.3 or something ridiculous. They were 15 points clear. So not have expected that at all from Springy South. But great performance from Buckley. It was Cronin and Hobbs just for that partnership. I think they put on 94 for the second wicket. And great performance from Buckley. They made the T20 grand final, and now they've locked their spot in the Turf 1 grand final.
Well, I don't know if Springvale South did a lot wrong. I like to think that the pass score in a 45-over match is 200. They post 20 more than that. I mean, Ryan Quirk made 49, 70 to Cameron Forsyth. That's one of those guys that walked down and Dandenong. Get your words right, Brent. And so, they post 220 off 45. I mean, you can't really fault them much there. And then in the bowling attack, I mean, I looked through the bowling figures, and it's not like anyone went for massive 10 and over or stuff like that. But I think the key seemed to be taking Straker for 5 and over, which he just doesn't go for 5 and over usually, does he?
No, not at all.
Yeah, so he went for 5 and over. I mean, and then you look at Dowling and Wiedering, and it's there's a lot of pace on the ball. Once you get through that spinner and you start knocking him away, there's runs to be had against Dowling and Wiedering and those guys. And I can't quite believe it's happened because it's just there's no real indication of exactly what went wrong.
Yeah, so it's probably not a case of Springvale South playing poorly, just Buckley Ridges playing out of their skin and playing really well, I guess, and that happens
Yeah,
sometimes.
well, I guess if you think about the pressure of chasing in the first place, you probably have to be pretty special to get past that and just get it done, even especially if it's 220
Yeah.
that you have to get. So, I mean, that was a pretty remarkable performance there from Buckley Regis, and yeah, they go into the grand final. Is that going to be played at their home ground? Because last 2 years it has been, but all the other grades they have a neutral venue. So I wonder what's going to happen with that one.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you much about that, but interested to see what happens.
Yeah, okay. So, well, Springvale South, they go into that preliminary final then. They host that one again. And they'll be hosting Helen Cora Park, who was just too good for North Dandenong. It's probably bound to happen. Helen Cora Park make 236, 81 for Cox, and Hammond 68 off 104. Those guys doing almost all of the scoring to get themselves, to 236. And then in response, North Dandenong 175. Pretty valiant effort from Javed Khan, who made 71 off 76, but no one else really went with him. And Helen Cora Park get the job done and get a chance against Springvale South to maybe give them a straight sets loss out of the finals.
Yeah, well, it'd be a big shock if they could pull it off, but stranger things have happened. But yeah, North Dandy probably got off to a shaky start in that run chasing. They dropped to 2 for 4 at one point. And you look at the wickets early, it wasn't even Hallam kind of getting the better of them. It was more just poor shot selection. Like the first wicket of Ranawira, he's just creamed a flick shot off his pads and he's picked out deep square leg on the boundary. Then Dinsdar just drove on the up, caught it like cover point. And then all of a sudden you're 2 for 4 with just kind of creaming balls to fielders.
Yeah, well, I've seen that throughout the season. They've been doing the exact same thing. They're just one of those teams that, I don't know, they just slog everything basically.
Yeah.
And there's probably only one guy in that lineup, McCartney, who's probably smart enough to play no better. He makes 19 off 66, so he's definitely trying his best there to launch an action sort of from behind. But yeah, I guess everyone else just absolutely starts smacking them everywhere, and if it comes off, then it comes off. But then equally, if it doesn't come off, then they look pretty silly, don't they?
Yeah, playing with fire a bit they are, but it got them to 4th in the first finals appearance. I don't know how long, but a while. So still a successful season for North Dandy in the end. Disappointing to see it come to an end, but they won't be complaining with the finals.
I think it was first in almost 15 years, I think.
Yeah,
I'm looking back at my cricket. So, I mean, pretty good performance for them overall this season. And maybe it's something they can work on next year, is maybe just get a little bit more temperament. Maybe they could probably find a few other players to build them up from around the sides. And I think they can definitely push in the future, that's for sure. So that's the Turf 1 done. Springvale South versus Hallam Cora Park in the preliminary final to go off for a spot in the grand final against Buckley Ridges. So certainly an exciting, as always, Turf 1 competition there with those, I guess, 3 big names, although the one other big name that was missing was Berwick, who somehow, I don't know, they just didn't quite get it done this season. What are your thoughts on them?
Yeah, definitely very disappointing for Berwick. They picked up the T20 comp as a bit of consolation, but obviously Turf 1's where it really counts. And to miss finals, not just miss finals, but miss finals in the fashion they did. Only 30 wins for the season. Definitely interesting from Berwick. They have renewed coach Spud James's contract, so obviously backing in the project, showing him a bit of faith, giving him a bit of time and whatnot. But especially when they're still recruiting these players. Like they've got Hancock from Paran at the top of the order. You've got Perrin bowling. They've still got good quality players coming in. So they'll definitely be disappointed and underperformed. And hopefully it'll be an anomaly for them. Yeah,
well, for such a big, powerful club, they just never even look close. Like, sometimes you have those big teams that obviously a bit of luck and misfortune sort of goes your way, and you might fall out of spots, and then you might make it a bit of a late charge, might be too late, but they just never looked even close to it. They just never were even near it.
Yeah, no, and I feel like a bit of it too can stem from they've kind of lost a fair bit of depth over the last few years, like looking at how their lower sides shape up and perform.
Yeah.
And I guess we're kind of seeing the effects of that now, and it's like it's harder to sustain a club at that one's level when you don't have the lower grades feeding them up as much as you'd like.
Yeah, but I guess that's something that they'll definitely have to work on. Their coach, Spud James, will have to get to work on that one, I think. Turf 2, and we've got the big dance between Beaconsfield and Cranbourne coming up. It was Beaconsfield here at the ground that we're at right now, Perk Allison Reserve, who are too good for Lindale, and probably their most important performance of the year, just with all the players who performed, because the whole season has been Tyler Clark and Mark Cooper who've been doing all the work. Well, this time it was Riley Clark who made 75 and Madashankar made 42. And even Jesse Pasakary's highest score for the year of 32, and they get to 231. So a really good, impressive performance there at the right time for Beaconsfield.
Yeah, 100%, because they'd absolutely dropped off. They were flying at the start of the year, undefeated at Christmas maybe, and then I think they only won 2 of their last 6 regular season games. So definitely a bit of a drop-off there for Beaconsfield, but Lindale is interesting though. Wasn't a great start to their innings. They slumped to 3 for 5, and I'm not sure did you see the wickets?
No, I didn't. No.
Yeah, I watched them just before, and it wasn't great. First wicket, you'll have to tell me the pronunciation here, but Tylan.
Oh, Thielen, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, the left arm orthodox bowler. First wicket, great nut, just took the outside edge, turned past him, beautiful. Then the next two came in 2 consecutive balls. First bloke, just on the front foot, kind of just hold out to mid off, bit of a nothing shot. The next bloke comes in first ball, short ball, goes back a bit, almost goes to cut it, and again just creams it straight to mid off, picks him out, and all of a sudden Thielen's got 2 wickets and 2 balls, got 3 in his first 2 overs.
Yeah, they're
Lindell
3 for 5.
And
Yeah.
when you're chasing 231, you need things to go your way, and they definitely didn't for Lindell there.
Yeah, well, I guess 231 though, it's a pretty big score, and
It
on
is.
this ground where traditionally it's pretty hard to score here because the pitch is usually pretty slow, so it's pretty hard to get even Began sort of defended scores of like 150 here quite comfortably
Yeah.
at times because it's just so hard to score here. But yeah, I guess I don't know what do you think about manifestation of runs, because I was listening in the club rooms and that's pretty much exactly what Riley Clark did. Do you know about manifestation? Do you do that at all?
I can't say I do, but I'd like you can inform me a bit here.
Oh, so he
guess
was
inside.
just, well, because the last round before the season they played Cramer, who they're going to play in the grand final, and basically for the first time the whole season he scored more than his brother, and all the boys were absolutely like celebrating him, and he was like, oh, this is the start of something big, I'm going to go and make big runs here, and then in the semi-final he goes and makes 75, and that's by far and away his highest score of the year by I think about a factor of 3, and they get it done without Clark and Cooper performing too much, which is I guess great to see.
Yeah, that's a great point you make. Clark and Cooper not performing, shows a good sign of their depth and other players stepping through, because you can't really be relying on the same players every week.
Well, they're certainly going to need all of it because Cramer are finishing fast, I guess. Get the job done against HSD in another pretty classic game there against HSD in a semi-final. They seem to love playing them as much as I'm sure Cramer fans would love to see them go up a grade this year. Wouldn't it just be great to see those semi-finals every single year for eternity, because they always seem to deliver some absolutely magical performances. Cranbourne posting 162 and HSD all out for 158. Cramer getting the win by only 4 runs there, and well, just like last season, Trian De Silva gave it his best shot and he just couldn't quite get it done.
Yeah, far out. Trian De Silva, what a story. In the exact corresponding match last year, he had 5 for 35 and an unbeaten century. This year comes out with 6 for in the first innings, and then only got 33 with
Well,
the
he
bat.
was looking pretty good at 33 as well,
Yeah.
considering he came in when they were 2 for 6 and they were 3 for 18 while he was out there, and all of a sudden he's hitting 33 almost run a ball. So, I mean, he was certainly looking like he was going to make it done, get it done twice in a row.
Yeah, he was. HSD coach Craig Hookey, he just said like he had the target a bit too much in his mind and tried to go too hard at it, which was the making of his 33, I guess, but then his downfall in the end. So a bit of a double-edged sword, that.
Yeah, well, 162 is probably one of those tricky chases where you sort of don't want to get ahead of yourself. Otherwise, you can get in trouble like that, because it's not really a cause to go out and smack the ball, but neither is it a cause to just dink it around, because you still actually need to get the run. So that's probably got to be a confusing chase for HSD, and that they felt 4 runs short. Well, I mean, they could have been fallen much, much shorter, apparently, according to a few reports I saw on Twitter about just the drop catches that Cranbourne dropped at the end, which let HSD's lower order almost get it done.
Yeah, well, they were 7 for 90 at one point, so they did very well to get within 4 runs and get to 158. Probably overperformed a bit at the end there, and I did see that too. Apparently quite a few drops from Cranbourne, which let HSD back in the game, but just made for another great contest.
Yeah, exactly. So we've had 2 of them in a row. I mean, last year, probably we're talking it up as a greater performance than it actually looked. I went and had a look back. I mean, HSD did it pretty comfortably, but I guess it was because Trian De Silva obviously played out of his skin in that game. So, they trade the blows there, 1 each, and then Cranbourne goes into the grand final against Cranbourne. As I said, there was a match, just a week earlier, where those 2 teams played off, so that might give us a good indication of what's to come in this grand final.
Yeah, 100%. Like you said in round 14 there, Cranny beat Beaconsfield by 50 runs. Mick Sweeney, Cranbourne's captain, led from the front with a 77. And Thielen, that left-arm orthodox spinner we touched on before, he also opened the bowling, and he finished with 2 for 8 off 7 overs in that game. So, great stuff for him, and he's hit a very rich vein of form at the right time.
Yeah, in a sense, Beaconsfield and Cranbourne are almost the exact same team, where they basically rely on 2 guys to get the job done with the bat, and then one of those 2 guys with the ball as well. So you've got, I guess, the all-rounder Sweeney. Can't remember which one that is. Which one is that? Do you know?
Couldn't tell you.
The all-rounder Sweeney is Peter.
Yes.
Peter's the all-rounder, I think. But they've got 2 guys each, pretty much. Sweeney brothers for Cranbourne, and then for Beaconsfield it's Clark and Cooper, who you get the job done. But I guess that's what I'm saying, that performance in the semi-final from Beaconsfield maybe gets them a bit more of an edge now this time.
Yeah, 100%. An interesting one. Cranbourne to get the wood over them in round 14, but we wind the clock back to round 7. Beaky rolled Cranbourne for 125, defending 141. So a 16-run win there. They won a piece throughout the year, and here's what happens. And another player, Jack Birchall, is it? First name?
Yeah.
Jack? Yep. He's taken 5 wickets across those 2 games. He'll be another bowler to watch for Beaky.
Yeah, so that should be a pretty good game, I reckon. I mean, 50 runs and then another demolishing round 7. Hopefully this time we get one right in the middle there, where it's just about bang on for the grand final. And then we'll have a look at Turf 3 quickly. Dandenong West get it done way too easy against Fowlergate. Bowl them out for 103, 3 for 104. They get it done in. And then, of course, New Encore Straker probably has one of his better performances for the year, 29 off 34. And then, his bowling was 2 for 11 off 7. I mean, it's just so hard to get away when you've got a test bowler coming at you.
Yeah, especially at Turf 3 level. Probably not something those players are accustomed to. And really, not the best performance from Fountaingate, but Danny West is the class above, and it's probably puts proof to the performance they had during the season. They were far and away the best team in the home and away season, well clear on top of the table. So they were probably red hot favourites going into that game against 4th place Fountaingate and got the job done comfortably.
And then they'll be playing Kimura, who got the job done in that other semi-final. It was Baptist who scored 60 off 66 to help them chase it down. Small total, 138, but they only chased it down 7 down. So got probably pretty tight at the end. Pereira for Springvale got 3 for 30 off his 7. And then, in the batting innings for Springvale, just no one really could get going. Mendes, who's been scoring all their runs the whole season, he only got 20. And then Danaseka, Marian Salaj, 37 off 59, and Osmani, 30 off 54, tried to get the job done. But just probably didn't have enough performers in the end because Mendes was the guy that they've been relying on the whole season.
Yeah, no, not enough there for Springvale. But Kimura get through in top first v second, top of the table clash in the Turf 3 final. Danny West probably going as favourites, you'd say, but you're going to see how that plays. I'd always love it when you see the 2 best teams from the regular season. Yeah,
well, Danny West, you'd think they'd get it done, but I mean, who knows? Maybe you see out Kulasaka Road, you get Bandara away, and all of a sudden you're looking at the rest of the 9 guys and saying, we can beat you. And I guess I'm trying to look for the result where they last played each other. I don't know if I'm going to find that easily, but anyway, that should be a good grand final as well. Danny West versus Kimura in that Turf 3 grand final. So we've been through all the Turf 3. You might just have a quick check of Casey Cardinia cricket, and I mean, this might blow your mind since you openly admit that you probably don't know much about this league, is that, well, in the end, the top 4 was set before this round, so I thought, for the Premier Division, I thought that wasn't even worth looking at. But in the end, all bottom 4 teams finished on 54 points, so Officer get relegated by 0.07%. Because they all finished in the exact same amount of points in the bottom half of the table, which is absolutely ridiculous. And it's mainly ridiculous because lots of upsets happen. Pakenham first in the ladder lose to Marinda Park quite comfortably there. And then Clyde, who are 7th on the ladder, they beat Turin, who are 2nd on the ladder by quite a comfortable margin as well. And then Officer only lose to Kurirap, who are 3rd on the table by 7 runs. And that's enough for them to get demoted after, before the round, being in 6th place.
Far out. That's incredible, and it probably is a testament to how even that league is if you're getting 54 points and getting relegated.
Well, it's even down the bottom, not the top half. The top half's way, those guys have been the top 4 for as long as I can remember, so they've been just dominating the comp for so long. But in the bottom half, Officer will feel a bit crap about that one, I reckon, but they came up from the district division the season before on a draw, so I mean they're pretty used to sort of luck and stuff like that, I guess. And then in the district grand final, did you see that 554 run score from Emerald against Pakenham Upper? Scored in 4 for 554.
In how many overs?
In 80 overs, I think.
Far out.
In 80 overs, 307 for Aranda. He got featured on MyCricket's Instagram and stuff like that. And then Thorne as well made 100. But that gets Emerald into their finals. They probably would have liked to outright just to be sure of it, but Pakenham Upper batted pretty well for 264 all out. So that sees, Emerald go into the finals, or maybe they don't go into the finals. I thought they were in the finals. I think they changed the ladder since I last checked. That's very interesting. Says that Cranbourne Meadows is 4th and Emerald is 5th, which I don't know if that's because they lost points somewhere else, but I guess we'll revisit that later. Anyway, that's a wrap for all the leagues in the southeastern suburbs. Mitch, thanks for joining me and thanks for talking cricket with me.
Yeah, no worries, and look forward to some more exciting games this weekend.
Yeah, and hopefully we might see you next week here, probably at the same venue.